Imagine you're driving on a lonely country road. You look at the song title on the display reflected in the glossy glass in your car, and suddenly you see reflected in it streaks of light. Turning your head, you look out the side window to see what it is, and you see a fiery ball streaking across the sky. It disappears into the horizon, but it captivates your mind as you drive. Could it be a ship of some kind from another world? When you get to your destination, you are fixed on what it was you saw. Firing up your laptop, you Google alien fireball in Wyoming. And just as you suspected, there are reports of a mysterious sighting many people believe could be of extraterrestrial origin. You knew it. It was an alien ship. Wow. If you'd only stopped to take out your phone, you might have had some true life viral video on TikTok. You decide that next time you see something like that, you won't let the opportunity slip away. So what's wrong with this scenario? Well, let me help you out. You assumed it could be a ship from another world. Your Google search included the word alien, skewing your research results to others whose first inclination of a sighting would have been something alien. Knowing that a video of such a thing on TikTok would blow up your views, maybe lead to fame and money, you've devised a plan to look for something like that in the future and share it online before someone else can beat you to it. Meanwhile, an observatory 50 miles away writes on their blog about S-27 fragment burning up in the atmosphere, an object they've been watching and blogging about for 2 months. It was not a ship, it was not an alien intelligence, and it was not a surprise event, but you believe in what you think you witnessed. And that is going to dictate your future actions and convert others to your cause. You have just fallen into the trap of confirmation bias. According to The Economist, confirmation bias is a tendency to favor information that confirms your already held beliefs. People tend to look for information that supports their viewpoint. It influences every way in which we assimilate and interact with information. If you go and look for confirmation bias online, you will often see two circles, and they'll be intersecting in the center. I've created a little bit different view of that, but the takeaway here is that we represent facts and evidence on the left side, and we have our beliefs on the right side. What comes together in the middle is the evidence and facts that we will actually believe and acknowledge. Our beliefs are gating which knowledge and which facts we believe are true. In 431 BC, the Athenian historian Thucydides wrote his account of the 5th century BC war between Sparta and Athens, entitled The History of the Peloponnesian War. Quoting, he says, "Their judgment was based more upon blind wishing than upon any sound prevision. For it is a habit of mankind to entrust to careless hope what they long for, and to use sovereign reason to thrust aside what they do not fancy." With the advent of the psychology of reasoning in the 20th century, Peter Wason coined the phrase confirmation bias. Wason was a cognitive psychologist at University College London. His early studies were focused on language and psycholinguistics. In 1960, Wason began devising tests to reveal failures in human logic. Some of his famous tests were things like the 2-4-6 task, which demonstrated illogical and irrational human reasoning; the 4-card task, which revealed people are predisposed to results that confirm their hypothesis; and the Thog test, that's THOG, showed weaknesses in human ability to access multiple pieces of information while reasoning. This is known as combinational analysis. Peter Wason wrote the books Thinking and Reasoning in 1968, Psychology of Reasoning with P.N. Johnson Laird in 1972, Thinking, Readings in Cognitive Science in 1977, and The Psychology of Chess, co-written with William Hartson in 1983. There's an excellent book by Ken Mangtolo called Beyond Reasoning on the lifetimes and work of Peter Wason. So Neil deGrasse Tyson is known by many people, but if you don't know him, he's an astrophysicist, author, and science communicator. He's head of the Hayden Planetarium in New York City and a research associate at the Department of Astrophysics, the American Museum of Natural History. Tyson wrote, "One of the biggest problems with the world today is that we have large groups of people who will accept whatever they hear on the grapevine just because it suits their worldview, not because it is actually true or because they have evidence to support it. The striking thing is that it would not take much effort to establish validity in most of these cases, but people prefer reassurance to research." So if I say, "I hate Atlanta traffic," well, that would be an opinion. What if I say, "With fewer cars on the road, carbon emissions would go down"? That is a fact. Now, if I say, "More people should care about our planet," well, that sounds like a fact, but objectively, it's actually an opinion, even though it's framed as a solution. But if I say, "If more people cared about our planet, carbon emissions would go down," now this is developed into a theory, a belief that pursues truth. However, truth is a moving target. So why does confirmation bias occur? Worldview. People understand the world based on factors they may not be aware of. Or efficiency. People process information quickly to protect themselves from harm. This is something that we've evolved to do over time. Prejudgment. People make quick decisions where they seem to already have an opinion. And self-esteem. People feel good when they're correct, and they may discard contrary information because of that. An aspect of confirmation bias is illustrated by the Dunning-Kruger Affect. The proverb, "A little knowledge is a dangerous thing." That is actually a misquotation of a 1709 essay by Alexander Pope entitled "An Essay on Criticism," where Pope wrote, "A little learning is a dangerous thing. Drink deep or taste not the Pierian spring. There shallow draughts intoxicate the brain, and drinking largely sobers us again." Common understanding of "a little knowledge is a dangerous thing" would be a small amount of information can lead a person to think they have more knowledge than they actually possess. A person with an incomplete picture may overestimate their abilities. A small degree of ability could become more dangerous than none at all. A partial knowledge has a higher probability of being biased. From Psychology Today, quote, "The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias in which people wrongly overestimate their knowledge or ability in a specific area. This tends to occur because of a lack of self-awareness, prevents them from accurately assessing their own skills." Dissenting viewpoints about Dunning-Kruger. Eric C. Gaze is a senior lecturer of mathematics and director of quantitative reasoning at the Baldwin College. Writing for Conversation, Gaze said, "To establish the Dunning-Kruger effect is an artifact of research design, not human thinking. My colleagues and I showed it can be produced using randomly generated data." The analysis performed by Gaze and his colleagues means that the pervasiveness or extent to which people present this cognitive fallacy was exaggerated in the 4 studies which underpin the 1999 research paper authored by Cornell University psychologists Justin Kruger and David Dunning. However, this cognitive fallacy does exist, and the focus placed on it by the study illuminates a real facet of confirmation bias in human reasoning. Quoting from Decision Lab, "The Dunning-Kruger effect is important because it makes us aware of our own blind spots and lends us the opportunity to adjust our self-perceptions. Because it is most invisible to those experiencing it, it requires taking a step back to realize that your own self-assessments are largely biased and likely incorrect." Continuing from Decision Lab, quote, "At its core, the Dunning-Kruger effect preys on not a lack of information, but rather an abundance of misinformation. We know when we know nothing, but it is information that is wrong that causes us to think we know everything and absent-mindedly press share. You may not know what you're good at because you assume that what comes easily to you also comes easily to everybody else. You are therefore robbed of the ability to spot your own specialties and talents." There are others who believe they know more than they know, and their voice is the loudest. Specifically talking about misinformation and disinformation, the American Psychological Association says this: misinformation is false or inaccurate information, getting the facts wrong. Disinformation is false information which is deliberately intended to mislead, intentionally misstating the facts. The Dunning-Kruger Affect can cause us to listen to confident people before reputable people. This has immeasurable effects on our society, as we accept information and advice from those who will speak first and loudest, before those whose words will hold the most merit. What about personal choice? Can we choose to not do these things? Well, there are certain behaviors and certain ways of operating that we can embrace in order to ward this off. When we find evidence that confirms what we already believe to be true, it satisfies our desire to feel good about ourselves. When we find evidence that conflicts with our notion of truth, we may feel bad about ourselves. But we can flip the script. Remember, feelings are not facts. An ability to accept new information and change your position is a mark of good character. Things like not avoiding information that may contradict your position. Admit to others when you find you are incorrect. It is almost always the case that your influence will be reduced if you don't own your own mistakes. Challenge your hypothesis. Seek evidence that could invalidate your theories. Arguments based on new data can actually bolster your position. Look to identify repetition. Repeated information begins to sound true. Be skeptical of leaders or of information sources that tell you something over and over and over. Watch for feedback loops, which confirm expected results. Listen to all sides and carefully consider them before coming to a conclusion. Assuming that you are an expert probably means you're just beginning. If other people are telling you you're an expert, practice active listening more than speaking. And that's it.